The first U.S. passport with a non-binary third gender marker was issued today. Now, by offering the X designation, the U.S. joins a handful of countries, including Nepal, Canada, and Australia, in allowing its citizens to designate a gender other than male or female on their passports. Now, speaking of passports, frequent travelers often dream of holding a second passport that could ease the hassle of applying for foreign visas. When you're the founder and CEO of The Points Guy, that means realizing a lifelong dream of obtaining European Union citizenship, allowing one Brian Kelly to travel freely throughout the European Union. And that's something that he finally got this week. Right, Brian? I guess, first of all, congratulations to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was the beginning days of the pandemic and we were all stuck. And I was like, how cool would it be if I actually had that second passport? And I'm Irish American, but I'm one generation too far out from getting it for free. So I had to get crafty.
You had to get crafty. So what's harder, hypothetically, obtaining lifetime titanium credit card status or EU residency?
EU residency. The Europeans love their paperwork, that's for sure. But actually, I worked through a law firm called the Mercan Group. They specialize in Portugal. They have investment products across the country. And instead of buying an apartment building, which is kind of complicated to do, I was able to invest in a Renaissance Marriott hotel in Porto. And I'm one of 180 investors who put in 350,000 euros each. And we're all part owners of this new hotel. We get a week free at the hotel. Mm-hmm. And, about a year after applying for the Golden Visa residency, I got my card this summer.
Okay, so there were a number of ways that you could have gotten a European passport. You picked one in which you invested in renovating either an old building, or you could also, for instance, buy property in a less populated area. I know that in your blog, Brian, you mentioned that you invested in the real estate, but you also donated to a charity. Is that something that helped your application along?
No, that had nothing. They didn't know I was doing that.
Okay.
Through this group, we raised over $100,000 for Rainbow Railroad, which helps LGBTQ people around the world get safety. But the reason I chose Portugal is that, you only need to stay there for about a week a year for the 5 years of your residency before applying for the passport. Most countries make you stay for about 183 days. There were countries like Malta, but Malta, you kind of have to give the country $1 million and never see it again. I wasn't that in need of a passport. The thing about Portugal is, in this investment, I spent $420,000. I earned 3% a year on that investment. Not great, but not horrible.
Right.
And then at the 5-year mark, when I get my citizenship, they automatically give me my initial investment back.
Oh, interesting.
So it's really, in my opinion, a no-brainer. Even though I have a portion of capital locked up, not participating in the markets, I get lifetime free healthcare. My kids will get EU citizenship, the ability, free healthcare and education. So I weighed the pros and cons and decided it was right for me.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who see the appeal of that. And especially in a post-COVID world, they're looking for some more work-life balance as well. And we know that Europe tends to have that more than the US. It's interesting, Brian, that certain countries in the bloc offer a golden visa program that lays out a path for foreigners to get residency and then eventually citizenship, because the EU has raised concerns about certain countries. You mentioned Malta, but there's also Cyprus, which haven't done it necessarily in the best of ways. And then, of course, people who do get passports from those countries then have access to the rest of the EU and that lifetime health insurance. I'm sure the program is changing as a result. I mean, is the program that you just took part in still in effect, or is that going to be going away?
Yeah, it's still in effect. And I will say Portugal, I did biometrics. I got an FBI background check. They checked all my financials. So, I feel like the Portugal program's really good. The real estate investment program is not changing. So if you do invest in a hotel, if you want to buy an apartment in Portugal, starting in 2022, it's much more restricted. You can't buy in one of the major cities or along the coast. You really need to. So that's what's changing for people who want to buy their own personal real estate. But the investment option, I think, is still going to remain the same next year, and an attractive option for people who don't want to own and operate their own property, but want to get that EU residency.
Okay, I got to ask about taxes, because that's going to be a huge headache. How are you thinking through that?
So Portugal does not charge you taxes because U.S. is one of the few countries in the world with global taxation. So you're not going to get double taxed. However, Portugal, is a haven for crypto. Lots, they've got very favorable taxes. If I were to renounce my U.S. citizenship, potentially I could reduce my tax burden by being just a Portuguese citizen. I don't plan to do that. But in general, it doesn't really change the tax game unless you renounce U.S. citizenship.
All right, this is a dumb question here, but I'll ask it because you're the points guy after all. How much of this process did you fund with your credit card, and how many points did you get from it?
I tried, trust me, Scarlett, but lots of international wires, unfortunately. And I'm an investor in this Marriott property, and I tried to get owner status, but I don't think I'm big enough of an investor to classify. But like I like to say, it never hurts to ask.
Yeah, and I know that you, of all people, must have looked into every possible way to see if you could fund this through credit card points and to pay for everything on the credit card. You mentioned that you went through a company to do this. Am I able to do this without a third party navigating all of this bureaucracy, or is it something where you really need help?
No, you can buy an apartment and do it yourself. It's tons and tons of paperwork. I don't have the time for that, and it's very complicated. And the Mercan group, who I went through, they're also the investors. So they get together, they get the builders, they build the property, they do everything. So, you get your own representative, and they help you set up your bank accounts and do all the forms. So, it's like they charge 8,000 euros or something, but it was well worth it, in my opinion. Versus me trying to figure out, Portuguese bureaucracy. Yeah,
they earned their fees for that one. Brian Kelly, the points guy, thank you so much, and congrats once again on becoming a Portuguese resident. That does it for a Quick Take the Lead this hour. There we go. Follow us on Twitter at Quick Take, or I'm at Scarlet Fu. Good night.